Coming up on episode 378 of Wheel Bearings, we got the Kia Carnival Hybrid, the Ford Ranger V6, the VW Tiguan, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, the Toyota Tacoma, Acura ADX. Toyota is working on a new Celica. Tesla might be left out of new California EV incentives. Cadillac is going racing in Formula One. We got the ConnectDER adapter, a map of NEVI sites, Dodge Charger Daytona leases. Edmunds is dumping its Fisker Ocean early, and they got 356 miles of range with an Equinox EV. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 378 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam McBuell-Sandwich from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from CarBuzz.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
Nicole,
Yes.
what have you been driving?
I have two
Well,
vehicles.
first of all, before we do that,
Yeah.
did you have any interesting pastries or treats for Thanksgiving?
I made a fancy Basque cheesecake. That was my
Ooh.
fanciest thing.
Was it
The
made out of
pumpkin
like lamb cheese, like lamb milk?
Why would it be lamb milk? No, it's a region of
Spain.
Yeah, but they're really in the like sheep and lamb.
No, it was cream cheese. It's just you put extra sugar in it.
Okay.
So then there's a crust, so the top gets really caramelized.
Is that what makes it a Basque cheesecake?
And you cook it without a crust, and you cook it in parchment paper, so it looks all artsy.
So it's kind of like a sort of a large deconstructed creme brulee.
A little bit, but not as crunchy on the top.
Okay.
How about you? Did you have anything good to eat? Like any fancy pants pastry or anything?
Yeah, we got a couple of pies. We went over to a friend's house for Friendsgiving, and we brought over a couple of pies that we ordered from Bird Dog Baking. So if you're in the Ypsilanti, Michigan area, absolutely got to check out Bird Dog Baking. Fantastic stuff there. We got this amazing heritage apple pie.
Ooh.
And then a roasted pumpkin pie.
Oh, that sounds good.
Which the pumpkin pie came with this brittle. I can't remember what kind of brittle it was, but little chunks of brittle that you sprinkle across the top of it. Oh, that was both of them were so yummy.
That sounds tasty. What about you, Robbie? Did you have anything fancy for Thanksgiving?
So I don't know how people eat just turkey. So my family, we have turkey with mole, which is fantastic.
Ooh,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so we had turkey with mole, thanks to my aunt, and then I went and got banana cream pies. So there's the local sort of burger place called Nations, and they're known for burgers and pies.
Okay.
And so every year you order your pie and you go to your local Nations, and there's like when I got there was like one of those box trucks just full of pies.
Wow.
And the Nations near my house is like one of the really, really small ones. It's essentially just like a counter and like three or four tables. And they were hopping when I got there to pick up my pies. So if you live in the Bay Area, have yourself a delicious Nations pie.
I've never even heard of that. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to try that out.
Yeah, banana cream pie. I got it last year along with something else. And when my cousin texted me and told me that her parents were having Thanksgiving again, I was like, well, what do you want me to bring? And within seconds, pie from Nations, banana cream.
Right, that was it. Just show up with some pie and we'll be happy.
Yeah, just show up with pie. So there you go. So
I've had chicken mole before, but I've never had it with turkey.
I know, same. I was thinking the same thing. I've only had it with chicken.
It's just like chicken's like so much a better bird to eat, which is why we eat chicken all the time.
Yeah.
So turkey is just like it's
more reasonable size.
Yeah, turkey's like fine, but it's much better when you just douse it in mole.
Yeah. Well, the way I've done. I mean, we didn't actually have any turkey this year. Our hosts that were the friends that were hosting the gathering on Thursday. He smoked. Smoked a pork shoulder and a pork tenderloin.
Okay.
And that was really good. But for years now, I've done smoked turkey for Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And that always comes out really juicy and really tasty. But it would be cool to have that with some mole sauce.
I know, right?
Everything's a little bit better with mole, to be honest.
I think, doesn't everything go better with mole?
I think actually everything's a little bit better. Speaking of pork shoulder, I started working on tamales yesterday. So today I'll be making tamales after we finish podcasting. Just spending the whole day making tamales. And you have to get the pork shoulder and you have to carve it up. You have to cut up little itty bitty cubes, and it takes a long time to do that. And my hands hurt so much that later on we got pizza for dinner, and I wanted to open like the jalapenos that I bought to put on my pizza, and I couldn't open it. My hands hurt from cutting. So I just handed my wife. My wife was all, she's like, "Here you go." I'm like, "Yay, jalapeno!" So. Anyway, another reason not to try not to die alone is that you can't open your jalapenos.
Open your jars of jalapenos.
You can't open jars. If you can't do it, maybe your partner can.
All right. What have you been driving, Nicole?
So I have two vehicles to talk about. The first one's a Hyundai Ioniq 6. So I had the 25, which is practically unchanged. They like dropped a color and they added the head-up display to the limited trim. So it's pretty much unchanged from the prior year. And the Ioniq 6 is one of those, like they've carried that pixel theme that Hyundai is so fond of. It's got a lot of pixels, and people either love it or hate it from the outside because it's very distinctive. It's a sedan, but it's just got this like the funky pixel styling. I kind of like it. I think it's sort of neat. I think it makes it kind of different. And it's something they're doing with their EVs, but I feel like they were kind of doing it. And like with this one, they're like all in everywhere you can put a pixel.
Well, I think it's not so much the pixels, like the pixel lighting, that's the issue that people have with the Ioniq 6. It's the kind of the profile with the slope down rear end.
The slopey butt. People either love it or in profile.
Yeah,
that's what, when you look at it in profile, it has a very distinctive look, and either you like how that looks, that sort of cut off. I don't know. It like wants to be
very aerodynamic.
It wants to be a sedan. I think it looks kind of neat, but then I sort of like it when a car is a little bit different, because so often the designs are very the same, and they're like, oh, the thing to do is to make it blocking off road, or the thing to do is this. Like Hyundai's like, we don't care. We're going to do it this way. And I kind of respect that. So I think it looks great. Inside, it's that very clean, minimalist kind of thing that I think they lean to with EVs. Like there's this sort of idea of like EVs need to be all like of the future. And they kind of try to do that. They do like you can't have traditional stuff. It has to all be, muted colors and no wood and no chrome and, which is fine. So it has a very like minimalist, futuristic kind of look inside. It's a comfy car. I mean, driving it around, front seats are great. They're very comfortable. You get power seats no matter what, which is always kind of cool. I like that. And you get heated seats for everything but the base trim, which is really nice again, because it's currently like 12 degrees in New Hampshire. So I appreciate that kind of thing. They don't have leather. Like we're talking about, not like the sustainability focus. It goes really hard on EVs. They have something called H-Tex, which is their artificial leather. And it looks, it's not leather, but it looks nice. Like it's no longer the days when vinyl was the artificial and you're like, oh God, that's fake. Like this actually looks nice. Cargo room wise in the trunk, not a huge amount of space. It's got about 11.2 cubic feet, which is kind of on the low side. And it does have a front, but it's 0.5 cubic feet. I mean, it's not really anything.
It's where you
technically
your
you can stick
laptop.
a charging cord.
You can stick a charging cord in there, but it's not like storage.
Well, you can store your iPad and your charging cord.
There you go.
There you go.
So if you want something that has a little bit more room than the Ioniq 5, which is more crossover-y, kind of that actually is going to give you room to store cargo if cargo is a thing. I like how they design the interior. So I love it when they do this. There's a center console that's like 2 levels. So the top level has your cup holders. It has a space for wireless charging. There's a little space where you could tuck like your key or whatever. But then there's this huge open space underneath, and it has a little bit of an edge to it. So if you wanted to put something larger, like your wallet or whatever, you can put it down there and it will sit there. And when you take a corner, it doesn't slide out. Like sometimes they make it a very, very narrow, short edge. So if you take a corner too fast, your wallet goes flying out from underneath. Now it's like under your feet, which is not where you want it to be. Stuff stays in place. I like that. I like how they designed this one, which is really kind of nice. There's a 12.3-inch infotainment touchscreen that's standard. So you're going to get a nice big touchscreen no matter which version of the Ioniq 6 that you get. You get CarPlay, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You get the standards. You get wireless charging for most of the lineup. And I love how they do the wireless charging pads with Hyundai. Instead of just a flat pad, there's sort of like a little, like a square. Like if you think about the circle.
Like a little island.
Yeah, it's like a little island. And when you sit your phone on it, it really like schnicks right into place. So you can tell when you've got it. Like it's not one of those like, Am I in the right spot? And it tends to stay put. So as you take corners, because of how the little island holds your phone, it doesn't slide around, because it drives me nuts when you can see your phone on a charging pad. It's like charging, not charging, charging, not charging, charging. And sometimes it lets you know.
Toyotas.
Right? And then sometimes some of them let you know in the infotainment. So you're like, phone is charging, phone is not charging, phone is not charging. And you see it blinking on and off in the infotainment screen. You're like, is that something I need to pay attention to or not? So I really like how they do this. You get varying amounts of range depending on which configuration and which trim, because you have rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. There's a standard range battery that's available just on the base, and then the extended range battery that is available for the full 3 trim lineup. So it's like, depending on what you get a different range. So the lowest range that you can get in this is 240 miles. The highest is 342. And there's like a range in between there. So it's one of those, that's a pretty big difference. So like, pay attention to what you're getting. So depending on how much of a priority range is, and that's the really low range, that's the standard range for the SE with rear wheel drive. That's like the base trim. And it's one of those, sometimes in a base trim, you look at it and it's all about the features that make it the base trim. In this one, it's that it doesn't have the power and it doesn't have the range. And that's why it's the base trim in this one. You can get it with extended range battery, and that takes care of that. It bumps the power. So the same thing, your torque goes up from like 258 to 446, and your horsepower from 149 to 320. So there's quite a range of driving that you're going to get depending on what you decide to get. I had the limited, so I had all the power, all the everything, and it was lovely to drive at all the things.
Would you say you got the power and that it was getting kind of hectic?
I got the power. Yeah, and it was getting kind of hectic. So and I like driving the Ioniq 6. I mean, it's a pleasant car to drive. It's nice. It has, when you accelerate quickly. It handles well. It's very quiet. The road noise is minimal. The wind noise, because like Sam was talking about the design, that really aerodynamic design, it's very quiet. It's a nice, comfortable car to drive. You get that 10 to 80% charge in about 18 minutes. So it charges quickly if you're out on the road and you want to, if you are road tripping in this. It's not especially super engaging in terms of the drive. Like, it drives nicely, but it's not really sporty. It's not really super engaging. It kind of just does its job as a sedan. I do like it. I did enjoy it. I found the back seats were a little on the short side. Like, if it's a sedan that you can definitely put 5 people in there if you want to. 4 is really where you want to stay. And if you're on the tall side, again, it's a little bit snug in the back seats once Russ
that roof line again.
Yeah, exactly. And once Russ moved that front seat back for him at 6'3", there's not a lot of leg room and like headroom. He kind of is doing that like half duck. He's like, I feel like my head is going to hit the sofa. So it's a little there on that end.
The side ends. Yeah. If you're tall, tall people in the back.
Yeah. If you're tall. If you're not tall, you're not going to notice it. You truly do have to be like, I'd say like 6 foot plus people will notice it. Pricing, you again have a really big, this is just one of those cars. There's a huge range. Like, even though it's not a giant trim lineup, the configurations, you get a big jump in price. So that base SE standard range is $37,750. The top limited with all-wheel drive is $54,500. That's a pretty big difference in price. And you're also getting you get extra features, but that, the power and the range really changes on this. So if you're looking for the cheapest one, like, drive it, because there's going to be a difference in how these vehicles drive. Don't just think, oh, well, this one has heated seats, that one doesn't. No, there's a bit of a difference in how these drive, and the range is a big deal depending on how often you road trip. If you road trip a lot, that standard range is going to be not such a great idea. You want to go with something a little bit higher in the range. Guess on destination, gentlemen.
Oh, 1,300.
$1,395.
11. Actually, I have written down, I just realized I made a typo as I looked at my own set. I have written it down $1.57.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
I was
not it.
closer.
Wait, I just looked at my own notes. I'm like, that is not right. Hold on. Well, we'll come back to that. So what did you guess? Wait, to remember what you guessed.
13.
$1,395.
Okay, wait. I gotta go quickly.
I think it's $1.95. That's the official answer.
I'm like $1.57. What did I just write down right there? Hold on a second. Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be great? If
that
you
would be awesome.
Like, if you just had $1.57 to pay for a destination fee.
I mean, what I want is for car makers to just stop. Just put that right into the price, into the MSRP.
Okay,
don't even charge a destination fee.
How's
'Cause
this?
if it's
this
not
actually-
optional, don't break
do
it
it.
out. It's pointless.
Well, okay, guys, I have the answer now. Unfortunately, it's not $1.57. I don't know what I typoed there. It's $1,150.
Yeah, I won.
So who was lower? Did you win, Robbie? You were
Robbie.
lower?
I won. I'm a winner.
So $1,150 for the destination fee. I'm like, what was I think? That can't be right. That was just me wishful thinking, apparently. So that's the Ioniq 6, which I like it. I feel like it's style wise, it's for a very specific person. You have to want that style. And but in pricing, if you're okay with the lower numbers, go with the lower models, but it does start to creep up there when you get up to that limited, almost $55,000.
But that base model at 37,000, 240 miles of range is, it's plenty of range for most people's needs. And if you lease it, now you can get that $7,500 off there. So now you're looking at 30 grand as the price that you're basing the lease payment on. And, that's actually pretty appealing, I think, to a lot of people.
Exactly. And that range
800 volts, so it charges really quickly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the range thing, like, I know everyone gets freaked out about range anxiety, and I get it. And especially like if you're going on if you road trip, but think realistically, how often do you drive more than 240 miles in a day? How often do you truly road trip where you're going to need that kind of range? 99% of the time, you're still going to just be able to charge your car at home if you have a home charger, or locally if you don't for some reason, at a charger where you know where it isn't a million miles away. So it's, yes, you can get further if you go with other trims and you spend more money, but it's not like 240 is going to cover you most of the time.
And this thing charges so much faster than everything else.
It does. Like it's 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. That's pretty darn fast. And if you're just doing a level 2 240 volt charger, it looks like it's about 5 hours for the standard range and like almost 7 hours for the extended range, if I'm looking at my notes correctly here. A lot of numbers to parse through there. So it's like overnight, you're done, so you're going to be able to, most of the time, just plug it in at home, you're going to be fine. Like, don't get too freaked out by the low number and the range if you want to get into an EV for something that's actually pretty affordable. And it's nice EV. There you go. So that's your Ioniq 6.
It's a good car. It drives better than the Ioniq 5, to be honest. Like the acceleration mapping, like everything about it. It's the better car. I just like the Ioniq 5 better.
I know. I feel like they learned stuff. Like they did the Ioniq 5 and it was good. And they're like, wait, we can do some of this better. And
how about a 6N?
I know. I haven't driven that. That would be even more fun.
Yeah.
That would be the funnest of the bunch, the 6N. So the other car I drove is nothing like this. The other car I drove, let me close down my Hyundai stuff and open up the Tacoma stuff. I had the 2024 Toyota Tacoma, which is fun to have. I actually did truck things. I had the TRD Pro, not the TRD Pro. I had to get the right, because this is another vehicle that has this has a lot of configurations for a small truck. I feel like with trucks especially, they're just trying to mess this up. It's like, how can you get this? Pick a flavor, pick a way you want it configured. We'll do it for you. And every now and then, like, we do these charts where you have to have all the configurations. I'm like, you guys, the chart's going to be 18 pages long. I can't do that with this one. But so I had this. First thing I got to say is, so there's 2 cabs in this truck. There is the extra cab and there is the double cab. I think are the phrases. Double extra cab seats 2 and double cab seats 5. I cannot use the rear seats in this car. Like, as soon as, even for me, when I'm sitting in those front seats, there's almost no room in the back seats. Russ pushed that front seat back, and I swear it is almost flush. I mean, he had a piece of paper between the back of his seat and the bottom cushion on the rear seats. And my kids are home for Thanksgiving. We couldn't drive it because they literally cannot sit in the back of that truck. So I get, it's the weirdest thing. I was like, there's no room in that second row. Have you guys driven this?
I have, and I agree with you. That is probably the biggest shortcoming of the Tacoma compared to most of the other midsize trucks. Is
exactly.
even with the crew cab or double cab, as Toyota calls it, it's shorter than the competition, and I'll be talking about the Ranger a little later. But yeah, that back seat, and that's not even, on the Trail Hunter, which has those crazy isodynamic seats,
Right.
which are about twice as thick as the standard seats.
So that was my one. Like, I like this. Then when I went to, I'm excited to have it. I did truck things, just so you know. I brought a grill that I wanted to get rid of up to my brother-in-law, strapped it down in the back of the truck. I'm like, look at me doing trucks.
Truck thing.
And yeah, it's like truck things with a truck. So it was great to have. And I do love the versatility of a small truck. I think they're great because you do sometimes want to do little truck things, but you don't want a giant pickup truck. Like something like an F-150, or in this case, this is a Toyota Tundra. You don't want something big. This gives you a little bit of truck versatility without having the big size and the cost and all the things that come along with buying a big truck and being harder to park and all these different things. So I enjoyed driving this. It's a nice little truck to drive. And I think they've done a good job. I had one quality issue that I shared in our chat. I turned the volume knob. It went pop and popped off in my hand. And I was like, oh no. And it was dark when it did this. So then I went to put it back on when I parked the car. But it's like, you ever pop the knob off on your stove and you have to line it up just right?
Oh, yeah.
Or you can't.
Yeah, because there's usually like one side that's shaved off, so it's in the right
So
position.
the volume knob on the Tacoma is the same way, only I could not figure it out. And I'm trying to put it on. As I've done it, I'm now managing to catch it just enough. So I was like, turn the volume way up. And I'm like, oh no, I'm trying to turn the volume down without the knob fully on the volume. I'm like fighting with it in the front. And then I got it back on. And once I got it back on, it's fine. But it does just come, like random small thing. I don't know. I'm going to give them, maybe this is a pre-production car. I don't know. But it was funny. I just went turn the volume like, oh gosh, I just turned the knob right off the car. Yeah. But aside from the one I have having a little trouble with quality there, the knobs are nice. They're nice chunky knobs. They have like that texture on the outside. So they're great for grabbing when you have gloves on, which is nice, whether it's cold or whether you are doing any kind of work. You can reach in. You don't have to take your gloves off to actually use the controls, which I appreciate. And I like driving the Tacoma. I think it's a nice, it's definitely I would say it's a well-mannered truck overall. And I'm driving more of an off-road trim in the lineup. So it's got stuff that makes it not as nice to drive on the highway as some of the less off-road trims that are out there. So I think that it's something kind of in a sort of way like the Ioniq 6, depending on which trim you drive, you get different features, you get a little bit of a different ride quality. So I think it's important that when you go to look for a truck like this, before you show up, before you get there, before you're, in a position where you got to go test drive it, know what your priorities are and what you're looking for. Like, am I an off-road guy? Do I want an off-road truck? Am I just looking for something to haul stuff to the dump? What do you want? Because there's very different flavors of this truck and you want to get the right one. There's no reason for you to buy something like the off-road one and have that not quite as refined on-road drive if you're not going to go off-road, unless you just want it to look burly and cool, and more power to you. Do that. So I enjoyed driving it. The one that I was in, so the most expensive. So the pricing, there's 8 trims, 2 beds, 2 cabs, 2 engines, and rear-wheel or 4-wheel drive. There's a lot of configurations on this.
10.
10? Is it 10?
Yeah, I'm looking at the page right now.
I was with
SR, SR5, TRD Pre-Runner, TRD Sport, TRD Off-Road, TRD Sport iForce Max, TRD Off-Road iForce Max, Limited iForce Max, Trail Hunter, and TRD Pro. Okay,
whatever I was reading from Toyota said 8, so I was looking at probably something they did before they maybe put Trail Hunter in the mix or something.
Yeah.
But still, you've enhanced the point. There's so many configurations. What I had, and I don't know if you're looking at something different because I wasn't looking at consumer side. I was looking at Toyota's media site, but I have the cheapest one is $31,000, just about $31,500, and the most expensive I had on my list, Sam, tell me if your show's different, is $63,900.
Yep, that's
okay.
So that's from the SR to the TRD Pro.
TRD Pro iForce Max double cab with 4-wheel drive. So from $31,500 to $63,900, you could buy 2 of the base one or 1 of the top one. So that's the other.
It's a lot of money for a mid-size pickup truck.
It's a lot of money.
But you can't sit in the back of
Yeah.
You can't sit in the back of. Yeah. So it is a lot of money for that truck. So it sounds like silly advice, but pay attention to what the trims are. Pay attention to which you're buying. Pay attention to what it is you need, because it's super important to figure out what you need before you look for something that has this many configurations and this much of a price swing. Make sure you have your priorities figured out. Otherwise, you're going to walk in there and they're going to show you those 10 different trims and 27 different configurations, and your eyes are going to glaze over and you're going to have no idea what you're looking for. And you also get, you have the iForce engine or the iForce Max, and the iForce is just a gas engine, and the iForce Max is a hybrid. I think I got that right. The Toyota's crazy naming, just why do we have to fancy names for things? So the base engine in this is a turbocharged 4-cylinder. It has 228 horsepower and 243 pound-feet of torque with an 8-speed automatic. The rest of the just regular gas lineup gets a 278 horsepower and 317 pound-feet torque version, or you can even get one with up to with 310 pound-feet of torque in a 6-speed manual. Confused yet? Yes, there's a lot to be confused. That doesn't even touch the iForce Max Hybrid, which is 326 horsepower with 465 pound-feet of torque paired to an 8-speed automatic. And then throw in the rear-wheel drive or the 4-wheel drive. There's a lot to figure out with this truck. For a small truck, it is complicated as heck. I've driven more than what I had for this because I went to the launch. So I've driven various versions of it. It drives nicely. You're going to have plenty of power. That lower version, the SR, you're getting lower horsepower. So if you're someone who's looking for the capability of the truck, don't go for choose accordingly. And the kind of weird thing on this,
I think you can still do things. You just can't be awesome doing it.
You can't be awesome. But
the SR is really, that's more the work truck with the Sealies. It's the most basic one, for your local auto parts store doing deliveries of parts to garages and things
or
like that.
If you're me, I would get this with the manual.
With the manual, see, there you go.
With the extra cab, I don't need any of this other crap.
You don't need the double cab that you can't use anyway.
Nah.
And then on fuel economy, it gets pretty typical fuel economy for the same. But the interesting thing is, because you're getting more power with that hybrid trims, your fuel economy doesn't get significantly, normally your fuel economy goes up when you get a hybrid. They gave you more power. So your fuel economy doesn't change a lot. You get more power, but your fuel economy stays the same. So it's like going to that hybrid is more about the power that you're getting there than it is about getting improved fuel economy. The needle doesn't move very much for that. So something to consider if you're looking at that purely from a fuel economy point of view. And again, it changes for every single trim. So there's a wide range of numbers that you can.
It depends a lot on, which tire, because different trims of different tires, like the off-roads have all-terrain tires.
And then you're adding weight because you've got skid plates and stuff, which further changes what kind of fuel economy you're going to get. So when I went to put it together, I'm like, I cannot list this. It was like a nightmare of numbers to try to put together. So it's one of those things that the gist of it is you're going to get okay fuel economy. What's typical, so I'd say sort of typical-ish for the segment, not especially good, not especially bad. And the hybrid doesn't really improve your fuel economy so much as it improves your power. Drives a little bit more oomph to it. So drive it for the oomph, not for the better fuel economy. And you can tow. It has a decent tow rating. You can tow up to 6,500 pounds, which is less than the Ranger that you have, Sam. The Ranger is 75. And
might even be more than that.
I think the figure I found, unless there's the reason, guys, by the way, we can find different numbers is they update things. So if you look at the media site and you're looking at a press release that maybe they released, if they've updated the numbers, they don't always update them on the media site. So you can go to the consumer site and the consumer site will have an updated number and the media site won't. So it can be a little bit, things can adjust, and depending on which official thing you look at, you will get a slightly different number.
And it also depends on which configuration you get.
Yeah.
Because the off-road models typically have a little bit lower tow rating because of the tires that are on there, the way the suspension's set up. If you want the max tow rating, you typically don't want the most off-road capable version.
Yeah, right. Because there's so much other stuff on there. They don't tow quite as much. Trucks are, the funny thing is you can just buy a truck. You can just buy a truck and you can look and say, I like this one, how it looks. It has the features I want. It has the infotainment or whatever. And it's comfortable. And it'll get done what I want to get done. But if you're a real truck guy and you look into all this and you're really a truck person, they're one of the most complicated vehicles to buy. Like they make EVs look like a cakewalk, even if you've never known anything about EVs ever. EVs are very easy to figure out if you start looking at them and you can like, okay, I get it. I see what I need to know here and you can understand it. With trucks, the vast number of configurations that you can get and so much changes. Payload can change, towing can change, the capability can change, the amount of room can change. How all these things change. Trucks are a very complicated. I feel like they're a complicated thing to purchase as a consumer.
Well, it used to be like back around about 2010, 2011. I know that for Ford, for the F Series, for the F-150, there was at one point, there was about 14 million buildable combinations.
Right?
Most of which never actually got produced.
But they could.
But when you factor in all the different colors, the 3 different cabs, different bed lengths, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, different engines, different rear axle ratios, different tires, all these different things. The number, it was something like 14 million permutations. I think they've reduced it now. I think it's somewhere around about 1 million now.
Which is still
still insane. Yeah.
Like when you compare it to the variances, the number of variations you can get on your typical SUV or sedan, compared to those, like even if you consider everything, not even close. Like you can get so much with a truck. So they can be very complicated things. I find them a challenge, not a challenge to review because I understand it, but a challenge to review in a way that it just doesn't seem like a number soup for consumers. You can give them mins and maxes to give them an idea of what they can. Oh, yep, the thing I want is above that. The maximum will cover it. The maximum won't cover it. Oh, it's off road or it isn't off road. Yes, it has 5 room for 5. No, it doesn't. But like when you get down to the nitty gritty features, you really have to look at that and make sure that you're getting the right one and sort of narrow it down before you ever step foot in the dealership. You really have to do a lot of research on car and trucks.
And even when you go to the dealership, if you're looking at, if they've got a bunch of different trucks, different combinations, and if you have a particular tow need or a particular payload need, open the driver's side door, and on the door jamb, you'll find a couple of stickers on there that have, the max gross vehicle weight rating for that particular truck and that combination, that build combination, and tow ratings and payload ratings for that specific truck. Everyone that comes off the line, they put a sticker on there, that is based on the particular configuration of which final drive ratio, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, is it a base model, whatever. And so you can, if there's several that you're looking at on the lot, then look at those, make sure you check those stickers and make sure you get one that meets your requirements. Because if you have a 6,000 pound trailer that you need to tow, and a particular combination that you're looking at only has a 5,000 pound tow rating, and there are some Tacomas that are only 5,000 pounds or less, make sure you double check that before, because that, if you overload when you're towing, that is a real safety issue. So make sure you always double check that.
I think that's the thing with trucks. And I think, you're going to find, like with the Tacoma, I like the Tacoma. I think it's a good truck. My criticism of it is that second row is nigh unusable. Otherwise, I think it offers the versatility depending on what it is that you need. In small truck world, it probably offers towing and probably offers off-road capability and the features that you need to do what you want to do with the truck. It looks great. I mean, the styling is great. Nice little burly little pickup truck. And it's easy to drive. It's comfortable to drive. But the thing is, just make sure that you're getting the right configuration and really look at it between all of the different options to make sure you're getting the one you want. And like Sam said, make sure you truly are getting the one you want. Because if you change some little thing, it can seem like you haven't changed anything. Suddenly you've changed something and that tow rating has changed. And you need to know that if you're going to be towing, if you're doing work with a truck, make sure actually the one that they are handing you is going to cover what you need it to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shall we guess on the delivery charge?
Oh, delivery charge. Wait, let me scroll down here and get delivery charge. Wait, where did I put it?
See.
Go ahead and guess while I'm getting to the right section.
$14.95.
$14.95. Wait, where did I put the pricing?
It's free.
I'm looking. What is wrong with me on the delivery charge today? I'm looking at the entire write-up that I have and everything ready to go. Pricing. Wait, where was it? What did you say? 14? Oh, wait. What? 14 and 14? Who said $14.95?
I did.
You win. It's exactly $14.95.
Yeah, we are a winner.
So you win, Sam.
All right. So we're one apiece right now.
Yeah.
All right,
Dun, dun,
Steven.
dun.
Robbie.
I drove the 2024 Tiguan SELR line. Now, here's the weird thing. The Tiguan just showed off a brand new Tiguan at the LA Auto Show. So I don't even know why I'm in this car. Okay, so it was one of the finalists.
Because we need content, Robbie. That's why.
It was one of the finalists, or it was one of the eligible vehicles for the World Car of the Year. So every year I scramble because I'm like, oh no, I haven't been doing my job. Since you're of the year, and I couldn't make it to the drive program for the World Car this year because it was like during the week, and I'm like, I'm already going to LA show. I can't like just disappear for two extra days off of work, and I've been having to take a bunch of time off for other things, so I'm just like, I can't do it. So anyway, so I got the 2024 Tiguan SELR line. Apparently, people really like this car. I'm fine with it. That's the thing. It's here's the deal with the Tiguan. It is just that smallish crossover, sort of almost midsize SUV that just sort of blends into the background with every other smallish, midsize. Maybe it's a crossover. Who knows? SUV that sort of blends into the background. So this is when you're looking at the Tiguan, you're looking at a utility. You're looking for a hammer so you can put up some pictures in your house. That's what this is. This is the hammer that gets you to work, gets you around town. And for that, it's fine. Does a great little job. Drove me around. The problem is that I have been driving a lot because that's sort of my main jam. And when you drive a lot of EVs, suddenly you realize how, unless you're paying a lot of money for a vehicle with a gas engine, they're not that great. Like the transmission
they feel kind of mediocre in comparison.
They do. The transmission, the pairing of the transmission, the CVT with the motor, it's always like, I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? you end up getting really, really spoiled is what happens. And so this is, and again, this is not the Tiguan's fault. The Tiguan, it starts at like 30 something $1,000. Hold on, I got a thing. Hold on, let me find out what's going on.
I love that it's not the Tiguan's fault.
It is not the T. Yeah, it starts at like 30. It starts at around $30,000. Okay, yeah, that's fine. It is it's nice. It corners pretty well, but it's not a luxury vehicle. It's not a performance vehicle. It's they're not going to put tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of additional R&D in order to mate the transmission to the motor so they're absolutely positively perfect, because there's no reason to do that, because if you do that, then that makes the gas vehicles that are higher up in the thing like all that work is happening higher up in the lineup. That's all the Lexus work. That's the Crown, or maybe not the Crown.
Lexus work.
It's the Lexus December to remember, by the way, everyone. To all
It is.
To all that celebrate. Also, happy Honda days, everyone. So I don't know if Volkswagen.
What about Toyotathon? Is that also
Toyotathon?
Right,
Toyotathon's like in the spring.
That's summer. Is it Toyotathon summer?
Yeah, Toyotathon summer. That's what you're like, woo! So the Tiguan. Yeah, it's again. It's I wish I could say it's amazing. It's fine. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It got me around. The seats are a little like the Camry last week. The seats are a little firm. They're a little too firm. Maybe you got to wear them in. This vehicle, I think, has about 3,000 miles on it, so maybe it needs a little bit more before it gets that little And a bunch of different butts have been in that seat, so it's not quite. It hasn't been broken in, but. Yeah, it has a lot of buttons, which I really appreciate, which I'm always a fan of. So you can push buttons. There's some second row seating. You can fit back there. I don't understand why the Tacoma doesn't have second row seating if the Maverick has second row seating. What's going on over there with their packaging? I guess Toyota people just don't have friends, like me. That's not. And again, not a slight against Toyota people. I don't have friends. I don't need the rear seats in my BRZ. I don't know why those are there. But yeah, the Tiguan, it is, I kind of liked it. It's fine if you have to get around town. What I don't like is that, there's now the SELR line with the Tiptronic form motion. Ooh, 8-speed automatic transmission. Ooh, it's bright red. Well, red's pretty nice. It's no Mazda red, but it's still pretty nice. $40,000. I'm not paying $40,000 for a Tiguan. I'm sorry. That's and I know someone is going to buy the R line, and I'm like, oh, you could have got like something cool. Because it's like the Camry, the Tiguan is not decidedly not cool. It's a car. You need to get to work. You got to get the kids. You need something that's going to work. You need something where everyone's going to be able to sit down. You need someone with enough room in the trunk or in the cargo area to put all your stuff. And that's what the Tiguan is. It is the nice hammer that you bought so you can put pictures up around your house and not think about it. It is not, you're not buying like the fancy, like, table router. You're not buying, this is just a hammer to get around town.
What would be the table router of cars? What would be a table router?
Oh, that'd be like the Toyota, the Land Cruiser. Like it's got like this. It's kind of cool because you can show it off to your friends, but also it has just enough utility where you could do things. You're like, oh, look at me! I did a dovetail joint. Look at me! Oh, by the way, I'm learning how to do dovetail joints, so that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
This is just like random off the top of my head. This is stuff I'm actually doing in my life, doing dovetail joints. It has a Fender premium audio system with a subwoofer. It sounds fine. It's just weird that it's Fender. I'm like, oh, they like guitars.
You gotta have some kind of branding on.
You gotta have something. I'm very curious. I didn't have a chance to look it up, but I'm very curious to find out. Like, is Fender actually building these, or are they just throwing their names on top of like?
I think it's the latter.
Yeah, I think it's probably the latter.
Probably.
But if you can, I put guitar stuff in it, which I end up putting in everything. Most things you can put guitar stuff in. So maybe not the. Did I put? Oh, I put my bass in the Miata, but it was in the passenger seat. The lane keep assist stuff and the driver's assistance stuff actually does pretty well. It doesn't, I think, everyone's getting a little bit, everyone's getting incrementally better. So when you do and to me, incrementally better means that the vehicle has the context to know not to slam on the brake or slam on the accelerator when you have cut-ins. And this does not do that. It has a very nice a sort of acceleration when someone pulls out and someone who's right in front of you pulls away. They're just like, let's do it, and just goes for it, which is also always a little terrifying. And it also, if someone kind of pulls in front, or if you move into a lane over, it doesn't immediately just slam on the brakes, which terrifies you, terrifies your passengers, and terrifies those behind you. So I think they're Volkswagen, good job on that. I know that they're working on their robo taxis in Austin with the ID Buzz. So to me, all that stuff sort of like helps feed into driver's assistance stuff, but more importantly, I would hope it feeds into safety stuff, which is automatic braking, that sort of thing. Let's see. Infotainment system's fine. Plugged in my iPhone, didn't have any issues with that. And it's got, it's like you said, it's got the wireless charging. It does it sideways, so you instead of like. Not sideways.
At an angle?
You still do it flat. It's still flat, but instead of like it going head to tail, like with the car, you put it.
It's transverse mounted, like the engine.
Yeah, there you go. It's transverse mounted. It's a transverse mounted wireless charger. So it's transverse mounted, which I feel like makes it less likely to go flying out when you go around corners. So I appreciate that. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's not. It is if you were looking, it gets 24 miles per gallon, which is like, but I think that's, combined, it's supposed to be 29 highway, 22 city. I think I'm getting like 23 right now. Just kind of cruising around. It's not exciting. It's not, I drove my Ioniq 5 to do things when I should be driving a Tiguan.
I think the biggest issue for the Tiguan is that this segment that it's in is the biggest segment in the U.S. market. These sort of upper compact crossovers. and there you have the Toyota RAV4, the Honda CRV, the Tiguan, the Hyundai Tucson, the Kia Sportage, the Ford Escape, and I mean every brand has something in this segment. There's a lot of competition, and you've also got, in addition to all the gas models, most manufacturing, the Chevy Equinox and the GMC Terrain as well. In addition to the gas models, most manufacturers have hybrid variants. Some of them also, quite a few of them also have plug-in hybrid variants that you can choose from. So there's so much competition that you really have to have something really good to stand out amongst that crowd. And from what we've seen of the new Tiguan, it looks like it might be more competitive in this space. But yeah, I mean, I've driven this Tiguan, and it's fine, but it's not there's nothing special about it.
The competition is too strong in the segment.
Yeah.
If there wasn't such good competition, this would feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
When people ask for that segment, I automatically am like, get a RAV4 or CRV. I don't think about it. I don't think about the Equinox. I don't think about the Tiguan. I don't think about all the other vehicles in the segment. It's just like, here are the two ones that you should get. Whichever one you want, it's going to be fine. It's going to last you to the end of time. Maybe the volume knob will pop off on the RAV4. Who knows? But overall, you get those two, and then the Tiguan's just like, hey guys, because it just sort of blends into and that whole segment just sort of blends into the background of life.
It's an all-terrain.
Well, and especially with the hybrid models that you can get from most of the other brands in this segment, now all of a sudden, instead of 24, 25 miles per gallon, you're looking closer to 40 miles per gallon, and with a lot of those. And plug-in hybrids, you can be getting 35 to 40 miles of electric driving range. So there's a lot of choices.
Yeah. Like if you get the RAV4 hybrid, which starts at, let's see, according to the internet, 31,900, MPG is up to 41 miles for the city, 38 for highway. And you're like, oh, that's just a little bit more than what the Tiguan cost. Why would I get the Tiguan? And again, it's not that the Tiguan's bad. It's just that it sort of disappears in this it's like the band that wasn't Nirvana or Pearl Jam. It's you just sort of disappear in the Seattle scene because these other ones are so much better than you are, and I'm sorry.
Sorry, but someone's better.
Sorry. I was gonna say Mudhoney, but Mudhoney's a great band. You should. In fact, they should have gotten way bigger than they did, but they didn't, unfortunately.
I've never even heard of them. Sorry. Now
exactly. They're the Tiguan. I'm gonna get a lot of angry emails about Mudhoney being called a Tiguan because it's not. The Mudhoney's an amazing band, and they should have gotten bigger than they did. But whatever.
All right, and what was the total tab on the Tiguan?
It was $40,250, which that's a lot. That's a lot for just a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine that's not a hybrid, and you're still getting
and not particularly powerful.
It's not really that powerful. It makes a lot of noise, but it's not. And again, this is the rub when you have so many electrified vehicles on the road. Even the hybrids feel like, ooh, you get that little extra electric torque at the low end. And if you have an EV, you feel like a superhero. You're just flying, popping in and out of traffic like a big goofball. So destination charge. What do you guys think?
$1,295.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go $1,195.
$1,350. Nicole wins.
Ooh.
She's a winner. A winner of the Tiguan thing. Tiguan. If you're like, I don't want a Honda, I don't want a Toyota, Tiguan.
Tiguan for you.
Tiguan for you. Yeah. It's again. It's not that. It's again. It's that whole issue with the segment. It's like when you're going up against the Camry and the Accord. It's not that. Well, I mean the Malibu. The Malibu isn't a horrible car. It's just not a. It's just good enough. And then you look at the other cars in the segment. You're like, well, why would you buy a Malibu? Like, what's wrong with you?
I had relatives who worked at GM, and so I still get that family discount.
I learned that I get a family discount
or you
through
bought it
SAE.
from a Hertz used car lot.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah. You get a Nissan or yeah. No, apparently I get a GM discount through SAE, but I don't know of any GM cars that I want.
Oh no.
What about the Equinox EV?
I have an EV. That's the thing is that they're like, oh no, we gotta maybe the EV credit will go away. I'm like, oh, what should I get? And I realize that I have the car that I want, and the other car that I want, there's like no way in hell I'm gonna get that for 2 years. So okay, maybe I just get an Ioniq 5. I don't know. And I can't afford an Ioniq 5N. That's where it comes down to. I can't afford an Ioniq 5N. Maybe I can get a Taycan like really cheap. Those keep going down in price because people are fools. That car's amazing, but I'm not gonna argue with the fact that the resale value is horrible, because that works in my favor.
All right. Well, I also had 2 cars this past week.
You guys are overachievers. I feel like a lazy bum.
Yeah.
Well, I had one booked, and then Ford reached out to me and asked if I wanted to get into a Ranger again because it's a finalist for NACTOY. And so I spent a few days with the Ranger as well. But the main one that I had booked for the whole week, and I actually still have in the driveway, it's going back tomorrow, is the Kia Carnival, not a minivan. It's
the best, not a minivan.
Yeah, it's the Carnival SX Prestige hybrid. So this is new for 2025. So the Carnival, which is very clearly a minivan, but when they did its most recent redesign and rebranded it from Sedona to Carnival, which is the name that they've always used in the rest of the world, they gave the front end a more horizontal hood, made it look a little more SUV like. But I mean, you look at it, it's very clearly still a minivan, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that's a great thing.
The Carnival is amazing.
Yeah, and so it's got a fresh face on it, that is similar to what you've got this year on the Sorento and with the Telluride and a bunch of other Kia stuff, and it looks good. It's a sharp looking MPV, if you must. And minivans have always been MPVs, multi-purpose vehicles, and you can do all kinds of stuff with the Carnival. So the hybrid version this year gets the same powertrain that is used in the Sorento, and also in the Sportage hybrid variants, which is a 1.6 liter turbo 4-cylinder paired up with a 74 horsepower electric motor. And all together with a 6-speed automatic transmission that gets you a grand total of 242 horsepower and 271 foot-pounds of torque, which doesn't necessarily sound like a huge amount, especially given the size of this vehicle, but it is more than adequate. It's plenty, and because that motor torque, is something that comes on instantly at the low end, 224 foot-pounds just from the motor from 0 to 1600 RPM. It feels pretty good. I've been driving it around. It's been pretty cold here this week. We got our first real snow the other day. And so when I went out to do my fuel economy loop, my usual fuel economy loop the other day, it was fairly cold. So I had the heat on and the window defoggers and everything going. But it still averaged just shy of 31 miles per gallon on my mixed loop of some highway, some suburban, urban stop and go, and a bunch of other stuff, and some rural driving. So just shy of 31 miles per gallon, which is pretty good for a big, not a minivan like this. It's not quite as good as what you would get with a Sienna. The Sienna's, I think, will do about 33, 34 miles per gallon. But it's still a very good fuel economy for this type of vehicle. The going for the SX Prestige, this one had all the bells and whistles on it, or pretty much all the bells and whistles. I don't know if there's any other real options. It had the second row lounge chairs, captain's lounge chairs. So you can slide those back. It's got the ottoman that comes up. You can recline them and pull up the footrest there. So second row passengers can. It doesn't. It's not a full lay flat seat, but it goes back pretty far, and you can. Your kids can lay back, can recline and relax. On a long road trip. So it's great for that. Like the Odyssey that you talked about a couple of weeks ago, Nicole. The second row seats both slide forward and back, but also slide left and right. So you can push them both to one side or both to the other side, or push them to the outside and have a big pass through in the middle. So if you get the captain's chairs, so you've got some, if you need to maximize your physical separation of the two kids in the second row, you can push them both out to the outside, and depending on how long their arms are, that might be sufficient to keep them isolated. The third row is also reasonably roomy. I can fit back there, and still have the second row seats with plenty of room in there. Like most minivans, there's a big deep well in the back. So if you're using all three rows, you still got lots of cargo space in the back and this nice deep well behind the rear axle. If you need to maximize your cargo volume and you don't need all the passenger volume, the third row seats flip back and into that well. So you have a flat floor all the way up to the back of the second row seats. Unlike the Pacifica, Chrysler Pacifica, where you've got the stow and go, you don't have that option in here, but you can slide the second row seats pretty far forward and get lots of cargo space. So one option that was included on this one that I think, in 2024, I would probably recommend against, is the dual rear seat entertainment system, which is $2,500.
Oof.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money when you can just buy an iPad.
I know. You can buy two iPads.
Here's two $300 kids.
Yeah, you could buy, if you've got more than two kids and you're using that third row, you could buy 4 iPads for half of what that rear seat entertainment package costs. And they can each be watching something different, and be isolated from each other and from yourself. One of the things, I did take a look at, because last week we had a question from Russ. He was talking about the Genesis GV70 and said he really didn't like the highway drive assist system in there. And they have the same system across most Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis vehicles, and it functions essentially the same way. So this is, adaptive cruise control plus hands-on lane centering system. And I tried it. I spent some time driving on the highway in the Carnival, and this is, I'm not sure. Like I said last week during the Q&A, I think that there may have been something wrong with the particular car that Russ rented, that he didn't like the performance of the system. This consistently has been one of the better hands-on systems that I've used. It does a pretty good job of keeping the vehicle centered in the lane. It doesn't bounce around. The adaptive cruise control works pretty smoothly. The braking is smooth. With the hybrid, you have the paddle on the steering wheel that lets you adjust the amount of regen. So it doesn't do full-on one pedal driving like an EV does, but it's got 3 levels of regen that you can choose from. So you can, with the max level, you can get pretty strong regen in there. So for most driving, you don't have to really take your foot off the accelerator. You can just back off and it'll do most of your braking for you. So like I said, the SX Prestige that I had is on the pricey side. It starts at, let's see, base price of the SX Prestige model, $52,600.
Prestige.
Yeah. But you can get, the Carnival hybrid starting, the base LXS trim starts at $40,500. I would probably opt for like the EX, maybe the SX trim, and you're going to get most of the stuff that you really want. You won't get those, those really nice second row reclining captain's chairs, except in the SX Prestige. But you'll get most, a lot of the other features, in that mid $40,000 range. And that's with the hybrid powertrain. If you want the gas engine, it's even, it's a little bit cheaper. It's a couple of grand cheaper. But altogether, including that rear seat entertainment package for $2,500 and the ceramic silver paint, it's a pretty boring color.
It's ceramic silver paint. It's gray.
I would not be inclined to pay $500 for the ceramic silver paint. But they, if that's, if you like monochrome, go for it. But all in, the Carnival SX Prestige Hybrid came to $57,225.
Prestige. That's what Prestige gets you.
Yeah. So you want to guess at the destination?
Ooh, $1,495.
I'll go $1,385.
Winner, Nicole. Right
Yay,
on.
Nicole. Wait, is that everyone wins but Sam? Is that how it worked today?
No, I won one. You
won
and
one.
I split.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just ruled this week. Woohoo!
So 1 point each for me and Robbie, and 2 for Nicole so far.
Nicole's win.
So yeah, 57,000 is a lot of money. I mean, the interior is really nice in this thing, except for the big swath of piano black that goes all the way across the dashboard. Again, for 57 grand, I don't want any piano black. I want something else. But if you go for an EX or an SX in that mid $40,000 range, I think that's a great option for a not a minivan. Let's see. The other one that I had was the Ford Ranger with the 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6. So they launched the Ranger earlier this year with the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder turbo, and they just like in the last month or so started building the V6s, the 2.7 liter V6. So this is the same engine that's the base engine in the F-150. If you opt for this engine, you get some extra horsepower, a lot of extra torque. Let's see. The 4-cylinder, 270 horsepower, 310 foot-pounds of torque. The 2.7 gets you to 315 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque. It's for the most part, most people probably don't need that extra power. If you're going to be doing a lot of towing, you might want to opt for this, because both the 4-cylinder and the V6 get you 7,500 up to 7,500 pounds of towing. So pretty good towing capacity. But if you're going to do a lot of towing, you might want to step up to the V6. There's not a huge difference in fuel economy between the two. I did my fuel economy loop with the Ranger, and it actually averaged about 20.5 miles per gallon, which surprised me. The last time I drove the Tacoma earlier in the summer, it only got 18, and that was with the 4-cylinder engine with the 2.4 liter turbo. What I've found in the last couple of years is the fuel economy on Toyota's trucks and their rear drive or body on frame SUVs, it's been kind of mediocre. But by comparison, not really as good as what you get from a Ford or GM equivalent. And this is another case where even with the V6, it did quite a bit better than the Tacoma with the 4-cylinder. The other huge advantage we talked about earlier that the Ranger has over the or one other huge advantage it's got over the Tacoma is the back seat. It's not as cavernous as the back seat of an F-150 or a Silverado or a Ram. Those things are enormous in terms of, it's like limousine space in the second row of their crew cabs, the full-size crew cabs. But it is usable. I'm like 5'10", 5'11", depending on the time of day. And I put the seat, put the driver's seat where I wanted, and I could comfortably sit behind myself. So it is usable. And underneath the rear seat, you can fold the rear seat up, the rear seat cushion up, and there's a nice big storage bin underneath there with some compartments, so you can store stuff out of the way. So you can have some tools in there, or jumper cables, or assorted other things that you might want to carry along with you.
Medium pizza, maybe.
Medium pizza will fit.
I think a medium pizza will fit back there.
Yeah. So you can, there's a hidden, storage space where you can put, store all kinds of stuff back there. The current gen Ranger, drives really well. The handling, this was a 4-wheel drive. It was a 4x4 Lariat. So it wasn't a Tremor or an FX4. So not really a full on off-road version. But it did have, 4-wheel drive with a 2-speed transfer case. So it's got a 4-wheel drive low range available. So you get a little bit of extra pulling capability when you're out and about. It's also got a locking rear differential that was an option. That's a $420 option. The V6 is a $2,200 option over the 4-cylinder. When I first drove the previous generation Ranger back in 2019, they sent me a Lariat then. And I complained at the time that the interior, that one was $43,000. And I complained about it at the time that the interior felt kind of cheap, because the previous gen Ranger was not really designed for any kind of luxury use. It was all hard plastics. It definitely felt on the cheap side in the interior. And that one was $43,000. This one is $10,000 more. It's $53,000. But overall, it felt much nicer inside. The interior of this one was much nicer than the previous gen Ranger. It's fairly roomy. One thing, and this may be because I'm pretty sure this was a pre-production car, a pre-production truck, the leather seats, the leather on the seats didn't seem like it was really well fitted to it. It looked a little
it's gonna do that thing where it's
wrinkly,
like stretches and has weird bumps in it.
Yeah. So I mean, the seats were fairly comfortable, but you look at them, it kind of looked like they weren't quite put together properly. But aside from that, the rest of it, is it's still, it doesn't feel like a luxury truck, but it feels a lot more worthy of the price point. Much more so than that truck 5 years ago did. Overall, I generally like the Ranger. And as we talked about last week when we talked about the NACTOY finalists, the 2 of the 3 truck finalists are the Tacoma and the Ranger. And even though the Tacoma, has more variants available, there's more flexibility, the 2 different cab sizes, different bed lengths, hybrid and non-hybrid and all this stuff. I think the Ranger is actually a better truck overall than the Tacoma. So I like the way it looks. I like the way that the new Tacoma looks as well, but I like the Ranger, even in carbonized gray metallic, another gray vehicle. I had 2 gray vehicles in my driveway simultaneously. It's like, oh, come on, especially on a gray November day. It's just not good. Overall, I generally like the Ranger. It's a good mid-sized truck. As I mentioned, the price point at $53,070 all in. That's $10,000 less than that TRD Pro.
Yeah.
And even compared to more comparable trim level, the Ranger is actually typically quite a bit cheaper than the new Tacoma. The new Tacoma is pretty expensive, except for like those low end SR5 models. Most of the trims are actually more expensive than the competition. And not that $53,000 is cheap or affordable, but it's a lot more affordable than a Tacoma. So guesses on the destination delivery charge?
$14.95. That's too much.
$11.95.
That's too
I went too low.
I went too high.
Yeah, too low. Yeah. No, Robbie got it. It's actually $15.95.
Oh my
There you go.
gosh.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
remember, it's
Fired.
$2,000 now for delivery on an F-150.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Whew.
Yeah.
Whew.
So,
Oof.
That's hot.
yeah.
Oof.
And, I mean, this one does have the 12-inch portrait style center touchscreen. It's got Android Auto and CarPlay support in there. So, lots of nice features in there. Heated steering wheel, heated seats, heated and ventilated seats, although I didn't use the ventilated part. Full-size spare. And it has the chrome appearance package, which, I could do without, but it is what it is. So, yeah, that's the 2024 Ford Ranger Super Crew 4x4 Lariat.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. There's a couple of things that we didn't get around to talking about last week because we ran so long. One is the Acura
Nicole.
ADX.
All my fault.
Yeah, the ADX is the new entry-level Acura model, or at least their entry-level Acura crossover. And did they actually have this on the floor in LA? Because I know they announced it like a day or two before the media day. I don't know if they actually showed it in person though.
I don't remember
I honestly
seeing it.
remember
They had donuts. Listen, they had donuts at the Acura booth. I stopped and talked to Honda and Acura people for a little bit about God knows what. Probably not about cars because I'm not good at my job. But I don't remember seeing the ADX.
Okay.
I think it was there, but I can't remember. That's terrible. That's a whole Thanksgiving holiday away now, Sam.
Yeah. Well, the ADX is basically a Honda HRV with an Acura makeover. It in place of the 2-liter normally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that's in the HRV, these are both based on the Civic platform. The ADX gets the 1.5-liter 4-cylinder turbo that they also have in Civics. That's what we have in our Civic. Nicer interior, tweaked exterior, with some of the Acura styling cues. You guys have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I think it looks good. It's if they're gonna go that direction, I think it looks good. It looks Acura-ish. I mean, it has that sort of sleeker, little more upscale Acura style to it, and it's a popular segment. So I think if it could do well, I don't think it's something that it's a foolish move. And some of the interiors they have shown here look absolutely fabulous. So I think am I excited about it? I don't know if I'm super excited about it, but I think it's a nice addition to the lineup.
I think, I like a small, little, fun car. And if they can make this a small, fun car, a small Acura, because the Acura finally kind of figured
Smallish.
out. Yeah, smallish. That's the problem, is that we're not getting small. Unless we get a GR Corolla, you're not getting a small, fun car.
But I think you nailed it, Robbie. I want it to be fun. If it's not fun, I'm going to be sad. I want it to be small and fun.
It needs to be, they gotta Acura it up, and it was at the LA show, and I'm sure I walked past it like 7 times.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was there, but I was doubting myself.
There's probably me in the background of some of these photos because I double checked. And I'm like, oh yeah, there it was. Whoops.
And it says it's starting in the mid-30s. I mean, that's a pretty good price point, mid-30s, to get yourself into an Acura. So in terms of the value proposition for this, it seems like it could be a good value. It's not going to come down to what it's like to drive this little thing. I want it to be fun to drive, be a fun, smaller, little-ish SUV. I think it could be fun, and I do like Acura. So I think if it pulls off, once we get behind the wheel, I think this could be a nice car.
Yeah, and I don't know if they've said when it's actually going on sale. I'm guessing it's probably going to be early in the new year because it is a 2025 model.
So it should be sometime in the
Yeah.
I don't see anything. I have not seen anything scanning down this that said expect to see this blah blah blah.
It looks better than the Honda. I can tell you that.
Yeah. The Honda's kind of a blob.
Yeah.
The Honda's not very exciting.
Like
this stuff looks way better. Yeah, this looks miles better than the Honda.
I literally walked past this like 7 times. I'm seeing where it is on the show floor.
There's a lot, to be fair, Robbie,
Right
there's a
there.
lot going on at the show
It was
between the people you're talking to and the stuff you're running to get to and the appointments you have. You could walk by the same vehicle 3 times, like, oh, I literally leaned against that vehicle talking to someone. I guess it is there. There's a lot going on in an auto show.
There is a lot. You know what the problem is? This is right in front of the Hyundai booth, and because of the Ioniq 9 and the Infinium, it's sort of like it was hard to walk that little area. So I'm looking at there where it's at. I'm like, okay, I end up walking around a lot, so maybe that's what it was. Or I was just rushing through it because I didn't want people to like stop me because I had stuff to do. That's my excuse.
That's fine. I'll accept that excuse.
All right. Do either of you two have fond feelings for the old Toyota Celica?
Not especially. Is anyone a Toyota?
That's the weirdness of it. Is like I remember wasn't there a Celica convertible at some point as well?
There was like in the late 80s. Yeah, mid late 80s, there was a convertible for a few years.
Yeah, I like the old like the 80s Celicas, like the 90s, but the last like the mid 2000s Celica, I was just like, meh. It's just I don't know. They were trying to make it look sportier than it should. I don't know what they were doing.
Right? Was it the Prelude that had? No, that's Honda. I'm thinking of. Toyota Celica didn't have.
Celica did. Early Celicas did have pop. Or there was, I think it was like the
pop-up
second or third generation. They had one with pop-up lights.
Yeah,
I think I remember that one.
And they were kind of funky looking because when the lights were closed, it was like a black bar across the front of the car, and then they would pop up out of there, and it was kind of an interesting look.
Yes, that's what I'm remembering. I just had to Google a picture. I remember somebody in our neighborhood had one that had the pop-up headlights.
And then
I remember pop-up headlights.
Yeah, later models also, like late 80s, early 90s version also had pop-ups. And that was one that was used by Toyota, in the World Rally Championship. And there were some interesting variants of that one. But I mean, the Celica's been gone. The Celica name's been gone for a long time, but I guess during the recent World Rally Championship rally in Japan, a Toyota executive acknowledged that Toyota is working on a new Celica, and I mean it'll be interesting to see what this amounts to. What could be really cool is if they take the GR Corolla and put a really sporty body on it. Now that would be a fun Celica.
Yeah, if they do it right. I feel like the last Celica, the final generation, they tried to make it look super sporty, but it just kind of looked lame. I did not like that car, and I felt like it just sort of like meh. Like once you hit the mid 2000s, then it was just like it just.
I think if they bring it back, they could make it fun. I think there would be some enthusiasm. They'd have to make it a good car. It can't just be Celica. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna sell 1 million. No, give us a reason. Make it worth buying. Make it something cool. I think that'd be kind of neat.
Don't mess this up.
Don't mess this up.
We got the GR Corolla. We're fine.
All right. Nicole, you don't write about motorsports very often.
I do not.
But you wrote a piece for Car Buzz this week about Formula One.
Oh, I did. I'm like, I did? That tells you how my week was.
Feels like you were tricked into it.
It's got your byline on it.
It does. So. No, I did. You confused me. I'm like, I did. I had to think for a second. It was 6 days ago that story was published. We mentioned once again that Thanksgiving was in the middle of this. So Cadillac is officially joining Formula One. They've announced that they're going to be there. It's going to be for the 2026 season, and they will be the 11th team that will be competing in the series. So we're going to have a Cadillac Formula One, which is kind of cool. It's kind of neat that GM is going to be in with that. And they're saying, like a lot of things, they think it will do 2 things for the brand. It will, Cadillac needs some visibility and to not look like Granddad's brand, and this will help it look more hip and trendy, and it'll bring it to new people will see it because Formula One is so stinking popular right now. So it'll bring it to a whole new audience. And it also, any of this motorsport stuff is an opportunity for an automaker to do stuff that is not going to directly be in your car, but it's going to influence what's going to be in your car. They learn stuff by doing these high performance vehicles. So they've also said, things could end up, this could make Cadillacs even better because it could give them a way of making the technology in Cadillacs a little bit better. And they also have, I think it's kind of cool. Mario Andretti is going to be involved in this endeavor. He's on the team board as the director. So it's not like they've got like a little bit of heavy hitter there to make this happen. So I think it's kind of exciting for GM, and I think it's probably pretty exciting for Cadillac.
Yeah, for those that haven't been following this saga, this effort actually started 3 years ago.
It was
when
like January of 23, I think they announced.
Yeah, actually, even before that,
Okay.
Michael Andretti, who is Mario's son, and the now former owner of Andretti Global, which runs an IndyCar team, a Formula E team. They run an Extreme E. They run in Global Rallycross. They compete in Indy NXT. They compete in a whole bunch of different series. They announced that they wanted to get into Formula One. And initially, Michael tried to buy the Sauber team, and they turned down his offer and said, "No, we don't want to sell." He offered to buy them for like $350 million, and they said, "No, we don't want to sell." And then, less than a year later, they ended up selling the team to Audi instead. So Sauber is going to become the Audi team in 2026. So then the FIA, so there's two organizations that sort of run Formula One. There's FIA, which is the sort of the sanctioning body that they set the rules and everything, the technical regulations and the sporting regulations. And then there's Formula One Management, which is a separate company which holds the commercial rights. So they're the ones that actually put on the races and run the series. And FIA at the beginning of 2023 put out a request for proposals, essentially, to teams that wanted to enter Formula One. There's been 10 teams for the last decade. Technically, the rules allow for up to 12 teams, 24 cars, but they currently only have 10. And Andretti and a couple of other entrants tried to put in proposals. The FIA accepted Andretti's proposal and then passed it along to Formula One Management, which is owned by Liberty Media. And Formula One Management, which kind of represents the other teams in the series, said, "Yeah, we don't think so. We don't think we need an 11th team." And what it ultimately ended up being is not so much that they didn't want an 11th team, they didn't want Michael Andretti in there. Apparently, there was some personal shit going on between Mr. Andretti and some of the other, some bad blood. And so a couple of months ago, it was announced that Michael Andretti was actually stepping down from his role as CEO of Andretti Global, handing that off to his business partner, Dan Taurus, and also selling the remainder of his stake in Andretti Global to TWG Global, which is basically a financial firm that owns Andretti Global and owns a bunch of other stuff. And he essentially stepped away from the team. And within a couple of weeks after Michael stepped away from the team, all of a sudden rumblings started coming up that, maybe there's going to be a deal made between Cadillac and part of when Andretti was still involved, when they first announced their entry, they had partnered with Cadillac, initially as a sponsor, and then Cadillac was going to build an engine starting in 2028. And so they now, they're no longer using the Andretti branding on the team. It's still the same team, the same technical people, the same engineers and designers and mechanics. But it's not branded as Andretti. It's branded as a Cadillac Formula One team now. And as you said, they're going to start in 2026 when the next generation of rule set. New technical regulations go into force. New engines that they're still hybrid V6s, turbocharged V6s, but they now are going to get 50% of their power from the electric propulsion instead of about 20% that they do right now. And the cars are going to get a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, different aerodynamic rules, so it should be interesting to watch.
It should, yeah. Cool stuff.
All right, let's see. So we since the election, one of the things that's been expected is that the new administration in Washington is going to try and eliminate the IRA tax credits for EVs. Whether that actually happens or not remains to be seen, because all of the auto industry, except for Tesla, is actually pushing back against that and saying, come on, we've invested, tens of billions of dollars in this stuff. Let's keep the tax credits in place so we can actually sell these things. Well, this week, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced a new plan. Last year, at the end of 2023, California's tax credit program for EVs expired. He wants to revive it in 2025. If the feds eliminate the federal tax credit, he wants to have a replacement program in place for California that gives the $7,500 tax credit to drivers in California that buy EVs. One interesting detail about the California plan, we still don't actually know all the details, but one part of the California program that they're proposing is that there would be a cap on the manufacturer's market share. So if a manufacturer has more than a certain percentage of the EV market in California, they would not be eligible for tax credits. Right now, Tesla has about 56% of the California market for EVs, and the rest is split among all the other manufacturers. And apparently this new plan, they haven't said exactly what the threshold will be, but essentially Tesla will be the only EV maker that is not eligible for these new tax credits if it goes through. Any thoughts?
I don't know how much they care. I mean, Tesla cares. I don't know how much. I always wonder how much the tax credit is what gets you to buy a vehicle or not. Like, would you only buy the EV because you have the $7,500 tax credit? Would you not buy a different one because you don't? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, as the only EV buyer owner amongst us, Robbie.
I mean, it helps, to be honest. I mean, because EVs are still more expensive. I mean, California, again, we're silly with EVs. 22% of our new car sales are EVs, so it's not like, and that just continues. I mean, my whole thing with the tax credit, if they get rid of it, I doubt they'll get rid of the manufacturing credits, and it's because a lot of red states have EV, have battery facilities, have factories that have given thousands upon tens of thousands of people new jobs. And you don't want to be the president who comes in and says, I'm going to kill, 40,000 jobs in Georgia, or I'm going to kill in the South. So for that, for this, I think, Tesla, Elon Musk is more than happy to pull up that ladder after getting a ton of credits and getting a ton of subsidies and getting a ton of loans. And he's like, well, I don't think we need those anymore, which is, for years, Tesla and GM no longer had credits because they had passed the threshold. So, and Tesla still did well. I think if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. Regardless of how I feel about, the quality of a Tesla vehicle, I think, for years Tesla was like really the EV to get. Now I don't think that's true. I think there's tons of other vehicles on the market that cost the same and are better quality. And with NAC support coming to all those vehicles, especially the Hyundais and Kias, like, why would you buy a Tesla when you can get a Ioniq 5 or an EV6 or Ioniq 9 or whatever. And so it is kind of funny because of all the automakers, Elon Musk is more than he doesn't want he's like, oh, we shouldn't have the subsidies anymore. But he's not, fighting up against NEVI, which is, he's going to get money for that. And he's not saying, hey, maybe we should stop giving, I should stop being able to get credits paid to me by other automakers because they're not hitting their EV numbers. It's this very much because, I mean, again, Tesla is still the Kleenex of automakers. When you think EV, people think Tesla. That's really what it comes down to it. Personally, I don't think. I think if you're going to do a credit, I think everyone should get the credit regardless of how well. If you're doing a good job, fine. Tesla, they're doing a job. They did a good job initially, and that is they have a lot of momentum, and I think they're selling cars on momentum at this point, really. But I don't think that I don't think them or GM or whoever sells a lot of EVs should be, taken out of contention for credits just because, it feels like you can buy a Tesla. Oh, but Tesla did a pretty good job at the beginning, so now you don't get the credit. I don't think it helps people who EVs, to be honest. But I do think the tax credits do help, but they're gonna go away eventually anyway. California 22%, and to be the rest of and everyone can sit there and EVs are this and they're woke or I don't know whatever stupid thing people are saying this week about EVs, which oh my god, I hear from people. Everyone follows California. Everyone was the same thing about cell phones. Like, oh, cell phones are stupid. Only the douchebags have cell phones in it. Now everyone's got a damn iPhone or Android phone in their pocket now. You can be that one friend who doesn't have one, and everyone's like, ooh, you're an amazing person. But the reality is we all have it. I think EVs are going to be the same way. 10 years, regardless of how much people are bitching and complaining now, a lot more people are going to have EVs, especially as their drive around town car. Because the people who have the giant trucks in my neighborhood, they also have like a Honda Accord or a Chevy Malibu. You know what I mean? And that is going to be the EV at some point for a lot of those people, because they're going to get it, they're going to drive and they're like, wait, I can save money. I can just plug it at home every day. I got full tank gas. All right, yeah.
Yeah. See what happens. I mean, it depends whether or not they actually kill the incentives. So we'll see what happens when the administration changes in not even 2 months.
Yeah, they talk about it, but they also talked about killing the
exactly
ACA, and then they realized how many people they were going to hurt. I think this is a good way to say we did the thing, but then everything else around it, every other thing when the IRA is going to stick around, because all those other things are really job creators. And a lot of Californians are still going to be able to buy these. But what this hurts is people who are lower incomes is what it does. What you're doing is you're attacking lower income people by saying, we know these vehicles cost more, but if you can get into one, it's going to save you money in the long run. And now we're saying, you can't do that, which is sort of, not what we want. We want more, we want more inexpensive vehicles. We want for people to be able to buy these. And, when you're lower income, it takes a while before you buy a car, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. One last one. I know you've got to go in a couple minutes.
I do. I have a hard stop in a few minutes.
I just want to get your thoughts on these Stellantis lease deals on their EVs. You got the Charger Daytona coming, and the Wagoneer S coming imminently, and they're apparently they're doing some screaming lease deals on these things even before they start actually selling them to consumers. You get the $7,500 tax credit on both of them, and a $7,500 cash incentive for buying these. So even before they go on sale, they're putting $7,500 on the hood. And so on the Chargers, on a Charger RT, you can get a $549 per month lease, which is not cheap, but
that's a pretty high lease.
But compared to what it could be, the full price, that's a lot closer, and it's actually works out to be cheaper than the former Charger RT with the 5.7 liter Hemi, which was $713 a month. Mm-hmm. And then the Scat Pack leases are also pretty good. And then they're doing similar thing on the Wagoneer S, the $7,500 tax credit and $7,500 on the hood. As someone who has an order in for a Wagoneer S, I assume that that makes you happy.
Well, I guess so, but I'm probably not going to lease. I don't know if I'm going to lease it or buy it. I haven't decided yet. I think I might just buy it. So
it might be worth doing a 24-month lease and then buying it at the end of the lease.
The thing is, like, this is today, right? Yeah. Like, and they keep changing this, and like, who knows when the cars come? Like, I'll see what's going to be in another. I'm bidding January. That's my personal guess.
Yeah.
As to when this car will show up, we'll see. I think it's probably going to be in January. So we'll see what kind of deals are on it in January. Because I mean, for me, for how much I drive, a lease is actually always a pretty good deal because I just don't put a lot of mileage on my vehicles. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see these. I mean, that's a good thing. And, you know, they are still trying to get their inventory down at Jeep, and they are at Dodge, and, you know, their inventories in those companies are still just as too much inventory than not enough sales. So I think whatever they can do to sort of boost things, they're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, especially with these new models that are coming on. And especially with the Charger, I think that it's probably going to be less of an issue with the Wagoneer S, but, you know, the Charger, they've really got to convince Charger customers, to go electric. That's going to be a tough sell.
That's a hard one because, yeah, as cool as electrics are, and we all know that, and how performance focused, like they're really great to drive. If you are a muscle car guy, you want a gas car, so they don't get it, or they just don't want to make the switch. Even if they do get it, they just don't want it. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that.
It's going to be a weird, because there are a lot of Chargers or a lot of Scat Packs where I live. Like, people just love those things. And again, like a muscle car as an EV just makes so much sense outside of the sound. That's it. The only thing you're missing, and now they have that weird, like.
And how much do they want the sound? That's like, right. How much of the experience of owning one of those does the average owner of one of those think is the sound? It's not just, it's like a package. It's not just the performance.
That's what the Fratsonic exhaust system's for.
Yeah.
But is it the same, Sam? Is it the same?
I think what's going to happen is you're going to have the one person who buys it in town, and then all their friends are going to make fun of them, and then they're going to do the race, and then all the friends are going to be like,
"Oh, God, I need you."
I really need to my manlyhood. There's going to be a lot of I don't know what to do with my life now. Issues, especially, and again, I live in California. We're silly with EVs. I can't swing a stick with. They're putting a Tesla supercharger like a block and a half from my house.
Really,
a whole supercharger station, and I'm like,
there you go.
Well, there you go. So I want to they'll probably be V3s, but it'd be nice if they were V4s.
Hey, at least you're getting something.
Yeah. So again, can't swing a stick in my neighborhood without in a charging station. There's one every exit, like right now.
All right, Nicole, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, have fun, guys.
Out of here.
So ConnectDER, are you familiar with ConnectDER?
I am not. And ConnectDER. I am not familiar with this.
All right. So this is a company, they've actually been around for about 10 years working on this technology. But what it is an adapter that goes in between your electric meter and the box on the outside of your house or your garage. Ours is actually mounted on the garage wall rather than the house. But essentially, what it does, you take off your electric meter, you plug this thing in its place, and then you plug the meter back in, and it's got its own output. So, for a lot of older homes that have, say, 100 amp or 125 or 150 amp service, and depending on where your electrical panel is, and if you have a smaller panel that doesn't have any available slots left to put in another breaker to have a circuit for an EV charger, this essentially is a tap in between your meter and your panel that lets you easily hook up a charger either in your garage or on the outside of your house for much lower cost than having to do a panel upgrade or a service upgrade to your house. The device itself, list price is $895, but they sell it through utilities and electricians, and you may be able to get a lower price on it, actual retail price on it. Installation can take as little as about 15 minutes, to basically pull the meter, plug this thing in, plug the meter back in, and run a line to an outlet or to a hardwired charger. And it's a lot easier to do, than having to run, depending on where your panel is. If it's on the opposite side of the house from where you park your car, can be quite expensive to do that. If you have to do a panel upgrade to get extra slots for another circuit breaker, you're looking at minimum $3,000-$4,000. And so this can be done for under $1,000, and it's very, very quick. And Tom Malogny from State of Charge YouTube channel did a good video showing an installation of this, and it's pretty cool. What do you think?
No, I mean, this is a great way for folks who they want an EV. They also have a solar thing, which is really cool. So
yeah, well, that's what they started selling first. They've offered the solar one for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But it's just yeah, like you said, like a lot of people, if you have an older house, and once you go past, the panel and the meter, those are going to be up to date because the utility requires that because they got to be able to charge you. But everything after that, if you have an old house, it can be a little chaotic. And when you're trying to add an EV into that sort of chaos of the 1930s or whatever, whenever your house was built, it gets really pricey really quick. But this sort of like, it kind of it says, you know what, you don't have to worry about all that stuff because all we're worrying about is the important stuff that the utility people have made sure is on your vehicle, is on your house. So no, I think this is especially like you were saying, like in apartments where it's, if I lived in what I've done to my house, I could have not done in the apartment building that we lived in before. But if we had the meter was near our garage in our apartment, we could have totally done this. I think the owners would be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing anything to the building. You're doing something to something that belongs to, it kind of belongs to them, but it's kind of the utilities property. And they're just like, whatever.
Yeah. And, another nice feature of this, like I said, if you've got an older house and you've still only got 100 amp service to your house, that's usually, that's not necessarily, usually you're not using all of that capacity most of the time. But, if you want to plug in an EV, there might not be enough capacity, if you are using a bunch of other stuff in your house, like using the oven or the dishwasher, or the washer and dryer, other things. And so what this thing does is it monitors the load from your house, or from your home. And, if the home is is trying to use most of the capacity you have available, it will automatically pause the output to the charger, and then resume when the load level goes down. So, overnight, you just plug it in when you get home. And if you're using stuff in the house, it'll pause charging, resume, when your home load level goes down. And they're also working on an updated version. They haven't said when it's going to come out, but the updated version will support bidirectional charging, make it a lot easier to do installations, compared to, like the Ford home backup system, which is $4,000 just for the hardware, plus, anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 for installation. This device will allow you to have plug in a bidirectional charger to it, and feed power back into your house from your EV if your power goes out. And it can also be integrated with your solar. So it's a pretty cool device, for under $1,000, to get charging installed on your home.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, I think anything that makes it easier for folks to charge at home, I'm all for. And it can be really weird, especially like if you have an older home. Anything that sort of reduces the friction of realizing just how cool it is every day to wake up to have a full tank of gas essentially in your car. I think I've complained about this before. Now, whenever I have to put gas in my BRZ, I'm just irritated about the whole situation. It's like, oh, I can't just like drive this around forever without ever having to go to the gas station. Fine.
All right. Continuing with charging, the NEVI program, as is often the case on the site formerly known as Twitter, there's some misinformation about the NEVI program, which is the federal program funded from the 2021 infrastructure bill to build out a network of DC charging stations across the country. And so this one, there was some stories earlier this year. It's a $7.5 billion program, and as of March of this year, they had only turned on about 8 charging sites, and there was people on one side of the political spectrum that were complaining, we're wasting all this money, $7.5 billion for 8 chargers or 8 charging stations. And so Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg went online to explain to Elon Musk and others how the program actually works, which is that, like a lot of federal funding programs, the money is not actually spent by the federal government. The programs are actually administered by the states. And so states, apply to the federal government for grants. They get that money, and then they manage the dispersal of money to the operators of these chargers. And in this case, the money is not actually being given out until the chargers are being put in place. So most of that $7.5 billion has not actually been spent yet. And they're only funding the ones that are actually being built. When they're ready to actually build, that's when they give the money out. And not all states are participating, but there's a cool map that somebody made on Google Maps showing the locations of where the charging stations that have been announced, the ones where the money has been awarded, and also the ones that have actually been turned on. Most of those are in the ones that have been turned on are mostly in the Northeast and around the Midwest area, around Ohio, and also where's that one? That's right on the border of Ohio and Michigan, near Toledo. There's one. And then there's a bunch of others that, where the money has been awarded. They're being, those chargers are in progress. And then a lot of others where they've made announcements, but not actually started the construction yet. And the money hasn't been awarded to the companies building these things. So pretty cool map, so you can track what's going on with this program.
Yeah, and all these, if you look at, thanks to Nick Turner for making this really cool map. If you look at all these maps are jobs. All these little pins are jobs. All these little pins are people going out, building, putting something in, building it, like energizing it, working with the state, working with local government. All these ones that are now running, those are also jobs because people have to maintain those. These are all jobs.
Electricians and technicians, the construction people that build them, the electricians and technicians that maintain them for the next however many years.
Yeah, these are all jobs. So that's a big thing. What's fun is there aren't any in California yet, and in California, I don't know what they're doing.
There is one at Arches National Park in Utah, though.
Yeah, Moab. You can go to Moab. There you go. Boom.
Yeah,
it's already energized.
Yeah,
people, they got $200,000. Rocky Mountain Power.
Yeah.
So all jobs, and if you're a smart company and you make these, you make sure that these are working. And there's some Tesla ones if you click on it, which is why you haven't heard Elon Musk railing against NEVI.
Yeah. All right, and then a couple stories from Edmunds this week. One, Edmunds, they actually buy some cars that they use for long-term testing. One of which last year they bought a Fisker Ocean First Edition, and they paid about $70,000 for it. And they're only 11 months into their ownership. They usually keep them for at least 12 months. After 11 months, they've decided to sell it while they still can. And the trade-in value now,
Sell it while you still can.
$13,000.
Oof, that's
Yeah.
you're taking a bath on that. I
Yeah.
mean, they buy and sell a lot of cars. Uh, if you are a human who bought this, like it's a regular person, this is tough. This is a tough because there's no one around to fix things if they go sideways. It's these vehicles are like most vehicles are complex with computers and whatnot. And I will say that if you can get one for like $5,000 and you're super into EV resto mods, you should buy it because it's just a parts car at this point. You get the batteries, you can get the motor, you can get the electronics, you can sell the seats to whoever, the display, maybe you can rip the display out and put it in your, you know what, buy a Grand National. And then buy one of these and then make the Grand National that was in the Watchmen TV show.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Electric Grand National.
Yeah.
And then rig up something like a Fratsonic exhaust system.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a quiet Grand National.
Yeah, it's a Grand National. So you got to figure out what and really you could figure it out. Come on. You can set it with the speed of the motor because the vehicle is always, it knows that, the electronics. So if you set something up that changes the pitch of a sound that is in relation to the speed of the motor, and then you just put like marine speakers or something, so outdoor speakers under the hood, boom, there you go. I've just saved Stellantis. I saved Buick.
Yeah. All right. The other big thing Edmunds had this week, they finally got around to doing a range test with the Chevy Equinox EV. And the Equinox can be had for as little as $35,000, including delivery charge. And that base Equinox EV LT for $35,000 is EPA rated at 319 miles.
Bam.
But when Edmunds did their range test, they got 356 miles on a charge with this thing.
That's a lot. And I like the Edmunds test. I think Edmunds test is where they do 60% city and 40% highway instead of just shoving it in, on the freeway at 70 miles an hour and hitting cruise control and just like, well, that's the test. That's not a real test. That's not how people drive, to be honest. And it sort of mirrors the same test that we do. I mean, mine's 50-50. Yours is, probably a little bit different, but it's, when you're doing these EV tests, really car driving tests, you should really look at what is the real world for these vehicles. But yeah, no, this is, I hear a lot of I haven't driven the Equinox yet, but I hear a lot of great things about it. So good job, Chevy. Good job, GM.
Yeah, no, they did a nice job on it. I'm really pleased with it. All right. And then let's answer a couple of listener questions. First up from Edward. Says, Sam, recently you talked about the new 2025 Civic Hybrid and left an impression on you. Recently, my 16-year-old daughter totaled her 2013 Accord that I had bought her as a beater. Sure enough, she rear-ended an F-150 with a tow hitch and smashed her hood, grill, bumper, and minor damage to the F-150 bumper. No airbags deployed on the Accord. Now I want to have her drive a safer car, but I don't want to spend over $32,000. So she test drove the 2024 Subaru Impreza RS, and I was impressed by how smooth it was, and it has the EyeSight safety system. I own a 2022 WRX. None of my daughters can drive it since it's a manual. That is the appropriate way to buy yourself a car if you have kids. It's like, hey, you want to drive my car? You're going to have to learn how to operate 3 pedals. Anyway. My other 3 daughters, 24 and 23, drive Subarus also. Crosstrek and another older Impreza. The 3 are very close and very loyal to brand. They will not consider any other car. My older daughters live in Oregon, where they need the all-wheel drive systems. We live outside LA in Santa Clarita. I also want to give my 16-year-old the opportunity to test drive the Civic Hybrid, nicely priced at $30,000 to $32,000. And I want her to test drive the Mazda 3, but it's not all-wheel drive. Neither is the Civic. Actually, Edward, the Mazda 3 is available with all-wheel drive on all trim levels.
But you can't get all-wheel drive and a manual,
Correct.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah. But you can get the all-wheel drive in both the sedan and the hatchback Mazda 3s. Like I said, with both the naturally aspirated and the turbo engine. So that is there. Is the Impreza more bang for the buck? The interior is nicer than the other two. She's a fan of the large screen that is also available in the WRX, and she navigates the screen fast and easy. Also, the interiors on all my Subis are nearly identical. I'll probably get a loyalty discount with Subaru, and their service department locally is top notch with 2 years of free maintenance. We drove to the Honda dealer, and they're just so busy all the time. But I listen to you, and you're a Civic owner, and speak highly of them. No, I will not consider testing the Hyundais and Kias. I don't trust them. I'm an auto appraiser, and I see the unibody structures of the Koreans not hold up like the factory weldings on Toyota, Honda, and Subarus. What other car can I consider? Also, on a side note, I bought my first WRX back in 2022 after I heard Robbie drive one back on one of your podcasts in February of 2022. Basically, Robbie sold me on the WRX, and wow, it's a beast. I love it, and thank you, Robbie. Huge fan of the show. Have been listening since 2019, and you three have the best auto podcast in the world. Nicole is amazing, and my wife likes to listen to women analyze the auto industry. So,
Man, it's the Subaru is such a great value. Just boom, just the Impreza. It's a great form factor. You're getting all this space. It is just a car. It's all-wheel drive.
You know what else is actually a really good value though? The Mazda CX-30. My daughter bought one last year. You can get the base CX-30 starts at $25,000 and has standard all-wheel drive, 191 horsepower, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, blind spot monitoring, cross traffic alert, a bunch of other cool stuff built in. And I think, it's especially, if you want something with all-wheel drive, it's basically a lifted Mazda 3. It is based on the Mazda 3, same platform as the Mazda 3, same powertrain. So it's a little bit taller, but all of the other features, all-wheel drive, like I said, is standard across the board on all of them. 191 horsepower, 186 foot-pounds of torque. And you can get it in Soul Crystal Red.
Oh, that's true. You do get the nicer color. I don't know. I've owned a couple Subarus, so I really like the Subarus, and they just keep going. They just plow through things. Like, what do you know? I gotta get this done. They're like little workhorses, for not a lot of money. Is sort of how I feel about Subarus, whether it's the WRX, the BRZ, or the Impreza. They're all like, I just gotta get this thing done. Just get out of my way. Just head down, ready to party. Subaru.
Yeah. I mean, Subarus are great. Like I say, I'm a fan of the CX-30. I think that's a great option. I would definitely take a look at that one. If you don't like the Mazda central control knob, if
you don't have the touch screen.
Well, you do if you're using phone projection. So if you're using CarPlay or Android Auto, it does have touchscreen. So you can use the touchscreen if you're using it with your phone.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's got a really, really nice interior.
Give them both. Check them both out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think he'll probably end up with the Subaru. He's already got Subarus in the family.
Probably, but
he loves that WRX, which I love that WRX. And it's so much more of a sleeper now because of the weird, like, sort of just, hey, it's just a sedan. Oh no, it's a WRX. And that's like, yeah. I talk about the WRX's transmission to a lot of people, probably annoying them all. Every single one of them. Like, see the second gear, it's like a really short gear ratio. So they're like, oh God, please shut this man up.
All right. The other one is from Mark from Howell again. We answered Mark's question last week. He's the one who commented on Spotify. Anyway, so this is Mark from Howell who sent in a question about the 2013 SL63 AMG I recently bought. Thank you so much for replying to my question on the latest episode. I realize repairing and maintaining this car is going to be expensive. I've never owned a Mercedes before, and while the driving experience has been amazing, I've already discovered the cost associated with it. This car is my retirement gift to myself. I plan on driving the SL63 to the Tail of the Dragon, Devil's Triangle, and the Triple Nickel. I wasn't necessarily looking for this particular model. I didn't even know what an AMG was, but I knew I wanted a two-seat hardtop convertible and came across the SL63 by accident one day during one of my walks. My 1965 Corvette convertible, my dream car since I was a kid, had become a Sunday cruiser, and I wanted a car that I could take on 4 to 5 day road trips. Now, on to the reason for my email. As far as I can figure, I was able to send the message through Spotify because I recently subscribed to their service. Previously, I was using their free version, and I couldn't comment on any episodes of any podcast. Starting the membership was the only change, so I'm assuming that is how you leave a comment for you. It sounded like it was the first that you've received through Spotify. It was. I'm an Android person, so I don't listen to any of the podcasts I'm subscribed to through iTunes or the Apple Podcast Catcher. I'm also an Android user, and I use Pocket Casts, which actually works on both Android and iOS. So you might want to give that one a shot if you're not happy with the Spotify interface for podcasts. Also, I found out about your podcast because I used to listen to The Tech Guy with Leo. Unfortunately, I found him somewhat off-putting when the conversation turned to EVs. From his tone, he sounded like if any of his listeners drove gas-powered vehicles, they were behind the times or idiots. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think I don't think Leo.
Leo likes what he likes.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly. Worst case scenario, my daily driver is a 2022 Camry hybrid. It gets 45.5 miles per gallon, and I never have to worry about someone bringing me a 5-gallon canister full of electrons. Thanks again for the service and entertainment you're providing.
45 miles per gallon. Live the dream. That's all I'm saying.
So I mean, between
I like that it went from we're talking about an AMG, the SL63 to a 2022 Toyota Camry hybrid.
And don't forget the 65 Corvette that he still
has.
And
the 65 Corvette. I think these are all like the daily driver. That makes sense. Using the AMG versus the 65 Corvette for those longer road trips makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about this makes sense. Good job.
Yep.
Mark, you're a proper car owner.
You got it. You got it nailed, Mark. All right. Thank you for reaching out, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye.